hands. And this is my confidence. You never fail me yet. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. Made a way where there was no way. And I believe I'll see you do it again. Made a way where there was no way. And I believe I'll see you do it again. Made a way. I believe I'll see you do it again. Do it again. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. Still in your hands, this is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Singing in promise, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. Still in your hands, this is my confidence. You never fail. See you through, you move the mountains. I believe I'll see you do it again. Make the way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you do it again. Made a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you do it again. Made a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. see you do it again. Move the mountain, I believe. I'll see you do it again. Make a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you do it again. We'll see you do it again. We'll see you do it again. 'Cause you're the mountain mover. You're the mountain mover. You're the mountain mover, Jesus. You're the mountain mover. I believe I'll see you through it again. Make a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you through it again. Make a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you through it again. See you I believe I'll see you do it again. Make a way where there was no way. I believe I'll see you do it again. See you do it again. See you do it again. It is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. I see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way. I believe I see you do it again. My life, my true Never run out. In my life, my when you still fight for me. Sometimes only my weakness. You see strength in everything. Baby steps and shoulders. Anything is wrong. You sustain my
So I got a verse on Romans 8:10-11 that says, "But if Christ is in you, although your body is dead because of sin, the Spirit is life because of righteousness. The Spirit of Him who raised Jesus Christ from the dead dwells in you. He who raised Christ Jesus from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through His Spirit who dwells in you." So Lord, I just pray that you continue to work in our hearts this week, God, and that even though it's our last day, we'll just still dive deeper into you, God. And I pray that we not only live through you, Lord, but we let you live through us, God. I just pray that any hardships in our heart, Lord, anything that you just bring peace, and that your Spirit will just fill us with your love and joy. Just pray, just peace over this room, Lord Jesus. That you'll just overwhelm us with just your love. And we'll just feel it rushing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Y'all may find your seats. Thank you, Avery and Katie. You guys, dynamic duo. So good. How many of you are finding that at each service, each worship service is just building on top of each other?
and like what God told you yesterday to go and on top of today, and like every time, and just keep asking. Josh is like, this microphone smells like chocolate. Evie smells so sweet.
I thought it was like really inappropriate.
I guess I kind of wait a second for people to come back from the bathroom. Did anybody have God show them anything cool during his teaching? Especially during worship today? Julie, would you like to enjoy information?
I never did you. The original did you. Are you the original?
So it's really short, but when we were singing Oxygen, there's a part of the song where he's talking about surprise. And it felt like a lot of us in the room feel like whatever we got from God in the past is over and there's no more for us. And God's just saying it's not that it's over with, it's just that I have a new bucket for you. It's gonna look different and it's gonna feel different, but I'm not over with you yet, forever.
That's pretty good, Julia. Yes. Anybody else? Anyone anything?
Cool revelation, word for room. Funny joke. Mine is Cody Kisses.
He has been such a faithful leader. He has been actually with us for like 2 years already. Isn't that a year and a half? Feels like longer. We love Cody so much. Honestly, 100% true. We could not do DeepEnd without Cody. He is like, he's the type of leader that assumes responsibility and just goes above and beyond. Before you can ask him to help, he's already helping. And he's just such a servant and such a lover and such a leader and so amazing. And we love you, Cody. We're so thankful for you. And also, like when he talks, angels and demons pay attention. And like the demons are so afraid of him. And when he prays, things change. He's got a lot of authority. Okay, here's Cody.
All right, so today, the last day, and we're talking about rise, which to me is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm very passionate about the like, okay, get up and do something, get up and be active, chase after something. And one of the things that I asked God, just like, when I was preparing, I was just like, God, what is that you want us to do? What is that you want them to do? What is it that you wanted to say? And he just said, I want them to take it, be ambitious, take what I'm giving them and run with it. And I even said, just like, how should it look like running with it? Like, how to run with whatever it is that you're giving. He said, just take leaps, jump, take risk, and have fun with it. Like, he didn't even say, like, oh, take it super seriously, have it something, like, really heavy or anything. No, he was just like, have fun with whatever it is that you're working with. Have fun with whatever it is that he's giving out to you. So right now, I kind of just want to just start with Ezekiel, with what is the whole thing this week. This is whatever. That's our life this week. So like in Ezekiel, when he's talking about the dry bones we had, where he's talking about the vision of the bones, he saw the bones, he saw them in the wasteland, dead and dry. There was zero life. They're actually beginning to break apart because they're so dry. And then we began to talk about yesterday with the breath being released, speaking life into them, prophesying into them, going with whatever it is that God showed and said, yes, this, live it. And so something that was really interesting, I'm going to be kind of just like going between Ezekiel and Genesis.
when he began to speak and prophesy the breath that was over the bones, like I'm just gonna start off here and then more transition it into just like actually rising and stuff. So when he began to actually speak life and breath into the bones, the way that actually works was he said to speak the breath of life into them. He said, speak the breath of life into them. The same breath of life that was actually used in Genesis when God created man. When God created man, it says he spoke the breath of life into him. He breathed into him. He breathed, however past tense that is, into him. And he was filled with it. He was filled with what God spoke into him. And so now when he came to and took his breath, breathed it in, breathed it out, it was the same breath of life that God put into him. What he released was the same breath that was inside of him. And now, and these bones went, he began to speak this into. He said, prophesy to the wind. But when it says wind, whatever, like the words for that, like how it's translated and everything, actually says breath of life. So, something that was just like really awesome, just really powerful was God was telling Ezekiel, you have the power to speak the breath of life. You have the power to speak the same kind of life that I spoke into Adam that gave life to him from the beginning of it all. And it's just that in itself. Understand what that's saying. You have power and can walk in that. And the way that this transitions into the actual rising up and doing something is taking that power and running with it. Knowing the power that God's given you and doing something with it and taking action with it. Beginning to come back from death is hard. Something that God showed me was how when someone has fractured a bone, and there's sometimes that they don't even realize it, but they fractured a bone and it's not treated correctly. So it begins to heal improperly. So when it begins to heal improperly, what happens in these cases is people begin to feel just a kind of just pain in that area where the fracture was. But notice that it was healed, but it was healed in the wrong way. And the body knew that there was something off. And so it began to still respond to that. It healed, but not correctly, and still caused pain. But it was healed. And so there's so often in our own lives that we'll think that we're healed through something. We think that us ourselves have went through the healing process. That no, we're past this. I've healed those scars in my own heart. And yet, there's sometimes we'll still feel pain coming from that. But then we kind of just try to like pass off, just like, oh, it's healed up, it's done with. But it's still there because it hadn't healed properly. Because we keep trying to just glance over it. And now the pain comes from when you really want to dig into it. What happens in the cases of the fractured bones and they haven't healed properly? In order to actually heal them, there's sometimes where they have to be broken again. Where they have to take the once fractured bone that has now healed improperly, break it again to set it in the correct position to be able to be healed properly. And so just even a process of rising, a process of getting back up again, it can hurt. Because God's saying, listen, I'm breathing life, and it's not always nice and easy. It's not always something super sweet. Sometimes it's pain, but it's not a bad kind. It's almost a hurt that hurts so good. Because of just what's going to come from it. You may cry. It may be a rough time as it's getting broken up again. But God's saying, I want to place it in the right position. I want to place you in the right position again. So that way this can really become mended again. So that way this time when it heals, there's not going to be a lingering pain from once was. And now, transitioning it from that into what do you do from that? Now, as we begin to walk out what you are risen out of, going back to the breath of what happened, when you go back to the breath of what happened, when God spoke breath over them, and then they began to heal again. They began to heal again. Now things were rising up. A man rose up for even the first time. What was released was breath of life. Now in your own situation, when God breathes life over it again, he's filling you with that air again. He's filling you with that breath of life again. And now what begins to happen as you walk that out is you begin to actually release that same breath that was put inside of you over other people's situations. You begin to even find people in similar situations. And just by you living, just because you have that breath in you, because God breathed it in you over whatever it is, now just out of your interactions with these people and where you've grown from, what you've grown into, you're releasing a breath of life over them when you speak to them. Especially when you speak directly to that. You have that breath where you're able to just completely release it to where now they can live. Just as Ezekiel was filled with the breath of life and spoke to these bones, that God said, speak it, release it over them, and now they're healed. The same is for you. The same is for all of us. Anything that God has read over your life, anything that God has brought life back into in your own life, is you can bring those same things to life in others. When God brings life into something, it's not for it to just be left be. When he breathes life into something, it's not to just be left there. Even when the bodies were coming back together, even when the bones were coming back together, and the sinews began to repair over the bodies, over the bones and everything, and the body came back, it said they were still without breath. They were still without spirit. And when God breathes life over you and you do nothing with it, you're in that same exact state. It's where you're still lying. You're still lying there. You're still laying there. But what you have to do is you have to take that spirit. You have to take what was released over you. Internally move with it. It says when they rose up, when that spirit was released into them and they rose up, that it was an army. He didn't say it was a people. He didn't say it was his people. He goes on to later explain like house of Israel and everything. But when he spoke of these people that were risen up, he said it was an army. So when they were risen up, when he breathed over them, they were brought up with a purpose. There was a purpose for them to move. They were brought up as an army. They were brought up to take ground. They were brought up to move forward. They were brought up to protect while also attack. They were brought up to attack an enemy stronghold. They were brought up to the attack, the enemy stronghold that was against them. And so when God begins to breathe life over you and you rise back up, you are also part of an army. You have a purpose. It wasn't just for you to feel good. Yeah, that's great and everything. And there's times where it's like sometimes we really need that. But there was a purpose. There was a purpose for you to be brought back up and to move. There was a stronghold for you to be brought up to attack. There was a stronghold that was pointing out that's like, okay, I brought you back, and whatever it is that killed you once before, now you're back and you're back to fight against it. Because they can't kill you because you're already dead. Just as we were born again. Just as we've already died once. Same exact concept. It's already killed you once in that area. God breathed on it. It's not going to kill you again. The only way it can kill you again is if you let it. Move with purpose. Even Adam, when he was brought up, Adam himself was brought up with purpose. It wasn't God was just bored one day and he's like, you know, it'd be really cool. What if I made a person? What if I made like someone that's kind of like an angel, but like not? They have their own will, they can kind of do what they want, and I just want to see what happens. I feel like, yeah, they might have been like thought like, yeah, that's part of it, but there was also purpose. And he says in Genesis 2:15 that there was purpose. He said, I brought you up to do something. I brought you up to cultivate. I brought you up to cultivate and grow this area that you see around you. And it says that God put him there. It says God put him in Eden. If he was made in Eden, why was he put there? Where was he that he was put in? There's an Eden for you to cultivate. And then even in Ezekiel later on, it says, I'm going to put my people there. It says in Ezekiel 37:14, and it says, I put my spirit into you, and you'll live, and I'll place you in your own land. He says, I'm going to place you there. I have a place for you. I'm going to create you. I'm going to heal you. I'm going to breathe into you, and I'm going to bring you to these places. And then in those places, I want you to cultivate. I want you to speak breath into. I want you to bring life into. And now, when he puts you there, there's so often, so many times where there's going to be something to rise against you to try to push you back where you came from. There's so often that there's going to be something that pops up to try to take you back out. That's going to try to bring you out of it. And so you have to maintain yourself. I'm not saying maintain yourself as in make sure you pray 3 times a day, read your word, make sure you worship for half an hour. Like, yes, those are all important things to do, but to really sustain yourself in those moments, like another practical part of it in regards to like those specific situations. When you don't feel right, when you feel lost, when you're not as strengthened in your identity in that area as you once were, you have to remind yourself. You have to go back to those moments. You have to go back to those moments and remember what happened in them. Remember what God did in the moments. Even in the moments, whether it was that moment of that God brought you back up, or even the moments that when you're in your own land that God's put you in, the moments that you spoke life to, and you saw life being brought up, and God did something there. That's what's going to keep you going. Remember. Remember. So often God says in the Bible, remember. Remember my word. Remember what I've done. Remember what I've spoken to you. Remember your foundation. These things build your foundation. What you've done is never lost. What you've done is stamped into the heavens. What you've done with God is there permanently for you to always go back to. So when you feel lost, you can go back to it. It's like when you stray from a path and then there's a beacon. It's like, where am I? It's like, I don't know where I'm at right now, but I do know that at that point, I knew where I was and I could work from there. So when you feel so far off, when you feel astray, use those memories as a beacon to walk back into it. Like, I don't know what to do from here. However, I know where I was when I was there. I knew where I was when I was staying in God, and there was a moment to where I was just praying for something, and God gave me a word, this person's life was changed, or God gave me this revelation of something. And I felt so much stronger at that moment. I felt so much secure. I felt like I kind of just like knew what to walk to. That moment's still there. You can go back to that moment. All of the good that you've done, everything that you've done with God is permanently there and helps build a foundation. It helps build a foundation for you to stand on. Not as a resume, not as something to say like, I'm good because I did this, but a foundation of God did these things in these moments, and I'm going to remember that. And there's even times where it's like, I sat there and been like, man, like, I just don't feel God. I just don't feel like I'm walking with God. I feel like I'm so far. And then I'm just like, okay, well, here, when's a moment that like I felt like I was really with him? Like, what did that feel like? What was happening around me at that time? So I'll just close my eyes and I'll just go back to that moment. And as I began to dwell on that moment, I feel everything that was happening there begin to dwell up at me again. And I'll just sit there. And I'll just meditate on it. I'll just sit there and just wrap myself in it. And then all of a sudden, I open my eyes and I'm acting out of that moment. I'm still carrying the same thing. It was always there. I just had to remember that I had it. I want everybody to do this. We're going to go back. I want everybody to close your eyes. And there's going to be a moment that God's going to bring you back to. And God's going to say, hey, this is proof of how I'm sustaining you. This is proof of a moment to help sustain you. This is something to go back to, and it's real. God, I just release you right now, Father. Holy Spirit, move right now. Holy Spirit, move. Just bring up right now, God. Just one moment. Whatever it looks like, whatever it is, Father. Just one moment. Bring them back to it. Just bring them back to a moment to where, whether it was something of that they just felt closer to you. A moment from the garden that you have for them, a moment from the garden that you've given them to cultivate. A moment that at one point when they interacted in that area to do something to cultivate, to help grow that land, God. Bring them back to that moment. Bring them back to one of those moments right now, Father. Bring them back to one of those moments to encourage them, to fuel them to go further, to fuel them to stay where they are, to fuel them to stay in the garden in which you've placed them, to keep going, to fuel them a memory right now. Let them remember you, remember what happened, remember their garden, remember purpose. Remember what kind of army they are. Remember what kind of place in that army that they are of that land, God. We just release that right now, Father. Just release that right now, God. Right now, God. What is it that you've done? What is it that you've done? What is it that you've done in those moments? Holy Spirit, release. Holy Spirit, release right now. Holy Spirit, release right now. You can't sit still, you have to move forward. I didn't make you to sit in one place, I made you to move. I made you with purpose, I made you for greatness. Yes, I made you because I wanted to give you life. But I also want you to do something with the life that you've been given. I want you to move strong. I want you to rise up. I want you to stand up. Talks about when it's people in Israel says that he's going to open the grave and that they would basically be forced to come up. God, break those graves open. Break those graves open. Break those graves open. God, some power right now, God. The power right now in Jesus' name. The power right now in Jesus' name. We must release that right now, God. We must release that right now, Father. We just thank you, God. You have to keep going. Don't worry about where you're going. God's going to get you there. Don't worry about you're walking, all of a sudden you see something happening to the side, whether good or bad. Just keep going. If you're just listening out for God, he's going to get you there. If your purpose's mindset is just, God, I'm going to follow you, he'll get you there no matter what's happening around you. It's like, I feel like sometimes it's like walking in a room of like obstacles or like, how do I say this? All right, so imagine you're like in a hallway. It's pitch black, you can't see anything. There's just a bunch of like obstacles in there. You know there's a bunch of obstacles in there. And so now you're kind of scared to walk through that walkway, right? Because you might trip over something, you might fall, you might run into a wall you didn't realize was there. But when you're walking with God, the obstacles may still be there, but he's going to guide you around them. He's going to make sure that you get there. don't worry. It's like, yeah, there might be stuff pops up. But we're not to concern ourselves with those things. We're not to have that concern on us, because then all it is a burden, and then it begins to make it harder for us to really hear and listen. One of the best ways that God strengthens you, is when you know there's an obstacle in front of you, but you go anyways. There's an obstacle in front of you, and you still keep moving. When there's a mountain in front of you, and you still keep walking. Just knowing in faith that God's going to bring you over it, He's going to bring you past it, He's going to guide you around it. But keep going. Keep going, keep forward. Don't lay down and die again. Don't let it get at you again. He's breathing in you. Release it, even if you have to over yourself sometimes. Remember. That's it.
How much you guys love Cody? He's like the best kept secret that I know, for sure. You guys, this is what it's all about right here. If we could keep the chatter down for a second. This is what it's all about. We've been talking about dry bones, we've been talking about the valley, but it's all leading to something. It's all unto something, and there's been promise the whole way. Baby steps and short breaths. Anything is progress. Some of you are like, it's been hard to take steps this week. It's been hard to worship or pray or hope or whatever. And I just feel like God's saying, it's progress. The two songs that we sang this morning were perfect. And the word Cody brought this morning was perfect. So good. It's exactly what we needed here. I hope some of you guys took notes. I hope all of you took notes, honestly. And if you didn't, Michelle, please sit down, please. I love you. But if you didn't take notes, there's some points in there that God was like, what you've been asking for is right here. It's right here. The remembering things, powerful. So powerful. Some of you are like, why did we close our eyes? Why do we have to remember? What's this all about? I'm new to this. I'm new to this whole receiving pictures from God thing. In Ephesians 1:18, it just says this: I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened. I pray that the eyes of your heart may be enlightened. What does that mean? Stick with me here. The distractions. It means that your heart has eyes. Your heart, the core of the soul of you, your soul is able to see. Your soul is able to see. And the prayer here is that your soul, the eyes of your soul, they would be enlightened. What is enlightened mean? What does enlightened mean? Yeah, Joe.
Enlightened is like in a way teaching, I guess. Tells you something, and if you learn about it, then you can
So enlightened learning, understanding. Yeah, definitely. Maybe a more simple definition. What is enlightened? If I were to come to this room, and this room is enlightened, would you turn the light on? That's it. I'm gonna tell you this. Your heart was created to see, but if it's in the dark, it's gonna be distorted sight. Your heart was created to see, but if you've been walking through darkness, if darkness is where like you've been or where you're at, I'll tell you in love, don't trust entirely what you're seeing, and don't believe the fears, don't believe the intimidation, don't believe the stuff that's coming against you, because when the light turns on, everything changes. The monsters, the fears, the past, all of it. When the light turns on, you realize how small they really are. It's because your heart is seeing clearly and seeing what God is actually doing. And that's what he's been doing this week, one of the things. And through Cody's message, I felt like God's turning the light up. We're closing our eyes. We're closing our eyes to remember, but we're also closing our eyes to see. And the end of that verse says, I pray the eyes of your heart would be enlightened so that you would fully know the hope to which he has called you in the riches of your inheritance. The hope that he's called you to live in the riches of your inheritance. Oh, I know we're all tired. But let your heart be a little happy with that. He's opening your eyes, not just to get excited, not just to have a good camp, but be like, I've created you to walk in your hope, and I have so much for you, so much more for you. So we're going to go to discussion groups. As you're on your way, obviously have a good time, but I'm going to ask you, take a minute, think about what Cody said, and really receive it deeply. Okay? Go get your blankets, go get your pillows. Us leaders will see you in your cabin. We love you so much, guys. This is the last discussion group, so don't miss out. Don't allow tiredness to prevent you from receiving and giving what's inside of you. We will see each other at lunch.